Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? How are we today? Are we all doing well? I hope we're doing good. Hope everyone is doing their best that they possibly can. Just know I'm sending out that spirit bomb energy. We are definitely in an interesting time period as we see what normally wouldn't happen, right? A series quite literally, having spoilers out by chapter 2. But I guess, is it really chapter 2? I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen has been going on for years, so it's not too crazy. But all in all, I am excited to still be back, have you guys in chat. I know some of you guys are old, some of you guys are new, and I'll just tell you that I'm excited to go on another Jujutsu Kaisen journey with you guys, which is honestly shaping out to be a pretty decent one. Mostly we're just going to be going over a lot of these spoilers that came out, which is in regards to a lot of the translations of the new chapter, what this new chapter means for potential lore, how this new chapter is shaping up for the entire sequel series as a whole, what some of these characters are most likely going to either represent or how they're going to be in regards to power. And just what I also want to do is I want to talk about a lot of different theories that this series is just going to clearly feed into and potentially give us satisfying payoffs for towards the end. I have a question. What happened to Rika? That is definitely something that I want to get into and talk about today. What up, Coconut? What up, Next Gamer? Would you rather eat a seal, or do you really want me to answer that question? What up, Jay Mills? What up, the Morning Star? Gege is cooking. So yeah, we'll get a poll started right off the bat here. Just see how we'll poll the audience. How are we feeling about chapter 2? I want to make it very apparent how the community is feeling about almost every single chapter. Because to be honest with you, it's hit or miss, really. I've seen so many different things. I've seen some people really love the new ways that the series is going. I've seen some people really hate it and be like, they're dropping the series, they never wanted to read it. But also at the same time, are those people, real fans, or are they just tourists that showed up? I hate that word tourist, but are those people that just showed up at the end of this Shinjuku showdown and are now just trying to talk down at any chance they get? Because sometimes I honestly, I look cockeyed at people that are immediately shitting on and taking every opportunity they can to talk about how bad the series is when it's only 2 chapters in. I mean, it really could, there's no way it could be that bad. Reading the Raws right now. What up, not Scars? How we doing? Hope we get to see more cursed weapons. I think Tsurugi is going to be the perfect opportunity to show us so many more cursed weapons. I think that's the best way to go, especially with him wanting to be the new Maki. I think it's very clear that this is Akutami's way of going back to a return to form. Forgot to mention, I got to play Phantom Parade again and got Awoken Gojo, Domain Gojo, Toji, and the new Nanami. I'm making a comeback. Just need Sukuna. Damn, bro. Let's go, Coconut. I'm happy to hear that. I have not touched Phantom Parade in a hot minute. I think it was right around the time they were releasing Yellow Shoko, and I was like nearing my 200th poll, still not getting Yellow Shoko, and I said, you know what, fuck this game. I already did the story. I did almost everything. I have the best characters at the moment, and everything is a swing. I'm already up to the highest point of the Illusionary Tower. Why am I playing? And I just immediately I just haven't played since, at least until once the second season starts dropping in English dub. I am more than happy to jump back into Phantom Parade, but for right now, when it's just the BS events, it's just not, it's just not it. The Boruto fans, they live off of hating. Yo, it's kind of what I'm worried that this series might go towards that trajectory, but I think just because I trust Akutami as a writer, I don't know if I will actually see I don't know if we'll see a Boruto effect happen for something like this. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. I genuinely really do appreciate all you guys coming to hang out while we're just, chatting, yapping, just talking about different things. First, really quickly, just so we can move on with the stream, I do want to mention the stream sponsor, which is Gamer Sups. As always, thank you so much, GamerSups, for sponsoring the stream. You guys are awesome. If you like, JoJo's anime, if you like Darling in the Franxx, they do have a Jujutsu Kaisen flavor, but I believe they're sold out of it right now. But either way, I love GamerSups. Honestly, you're lucky I'm not drinking it right now because I genuinely just took my Vyvanse. Otherwise, my heart would be pumping crazy with that caffeine. I could throw some caffeine free on there. You know what? Honestly, I might go ahead and pop some caffeine free on. When maybe I'll take a break halfway through and grab some raw meat. I do have some caffeine free raw meat. But yeah, guys, if you are looking for an energy drink or an energy supplement that doesn't give you, crashes halfway through, the day, there's no sugar in it. It's nothing but straight up vitamins, nootropics, and just goodness for everything. So check it out. They got a bunch of really awesome flavors. I love GamerSups. And yeah, thank you for sponsoring the stream. Pinned message has the link. Go use my link, code NOOP, for 10% off your GamerSups order. If you're a Chainsaw Man reader, you'll like GamerSups. There we go, baby. But anyway, let's get into the chapter. So there are a select number of things that I do want to point out from this chapter specifically that I thought were very interesting. For one, it is the constant reminder of how strong the aliens are. It is the constant reference and mirror paralleling to Sukuna Ryomen, to the alien that we see. And three, I also, I think it's very funny to say that this might be even though this is a Jujutsu Kaisen sequel, this might be like the Star Wars prequel of the Jujutsu Kaisen series, because there seems to almost even be a political angle and a political aspect that's going on in the series that I do want to touch on as well, that genuinely I think is just very interesting. And like I said at the end, I do kind of want to touch on a bunch of crazy theories that have been going on at the very beginning of Modulo that I think are worth talking about. So that being said, yeah, I called him Sukuna Ryomen. You're damn right I did. You're damn right I called him Sukuna Ryomen. So, let me go ahead, let me pull this up here. So, like I said, one of the most interesting aspects of the chapter 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo is the whole entire political aspect that we see, which is why I kind of, attribute it to being akin of the Star Wars prequels, when the Phantom Menace just brought up a bunch of intergalactic trade federation war and politics and all that stuff, and everyone was like, what's going on? I mean, it completely makes sense in the grand scheme of the story, right? You have Usami, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, because after the culling game, after cursed energy was revealed to not just the innocent civilians of Japan, but it was revealed to the entire world, you have two aspects of the world that immediately shifted, most likely. You have the political aspect of the world, which we see through the Kyoto Treaty that we get referenced multiple times in the new chapter of Modulo. And then you also have the underground side of things, which is the trafficking of Japanese people in regards to the almost infinite energy they offer with their cursed energy. Even the most minuscule amount of cursed energy is enough to power huge amounts of either, entire family homes, entire neighborhoods. And if it's done on the underworld scale, criminal scale, and mafia, Yakuza, and even other kinds of criminal organizations throughout the world are able to make use of these energy sources secretly, they can do so much damage to the world. Because one thing that kind of gets brought up in an offhanded manner when Tsurugi and Yuka are discussing with the imprisoned curse user, as in regards to how he even found out about the aliens in the first place, much like our world today that is currently seeing the effects of AI growing, being built and getting better and being developed further and further, and we don't really know what to do. We haven't really started any kind of regulation. In fact, I'm pretty sure we outright said we're not going to be regulating AI for the foreseeable future right now. And we see the effects of that in the Jujutsu Kaisen future, which is if if any kind of information is put on the digital web, anything at all, it's immediately accessible to anyone. It's immediately possible to get leaked, no matter how critical, no matter how sensitive it is. Because of AI in general, the government has been unable to get a hold of it. So curse users and other kind of criminals alike have not only easily been able to crack down and perform all of their tasks and crimes in secret, but they have also been able to completely always know what the Jujutsu higher-ups and what the Japanese government knows, and also if they're on their tail, all of these different things. So when it comes down to it, the criminal aspect of everything, which we saw last chapter, presents major repercussions for, children, multiple of them getting bought and sold, other people and adults getting bought and sold as well. Again, not just in Japan, but all across the world. And we already saw in the last Jujutsu Kaisen series how militaries were willing to completely outright invade Japan during its time of weakness in the Culling game to try and steal citizens and sorcerers for their own to power entire countries worth of things. That's what Kenjaku set off in the Culling game, the quote-unquote bomb that Reggie predicted would happen. And in this new chapter, we do see the more formal aspect of that, with Usami and the new character Mino meeting the diplomats of the Sumerians. I hope I'm saying that right. Aliens, because there is a spaceship of 50,000 of these aliens hovering above Japan right now that are looking to hopefully dock and immigrate amongst Japanese society. Now, obviously, in any world, if you want to take it in a somewhat realistic aspect, politically, that is going to be insane, because not only are these creatures that you don't understand their religion, you don't understand their history, you don't know what their culture is, you don't know what's polite to them, you don't know what's mean to them, you don't even know if they have literally the most simplest things of, you don't know if they are male and female or any kind of gender in between that, right? You have no idea how their entire species operates. And while someone like Mino immediately wants to say, holy crap, we need to be super duper careful, we should be wearing hazmat suits, we don't know if these people are just infectious to be around, in quite literally, honestly, the only kind of light I see in the world right now of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo in the adulthood, because again, the Gojo clan seems like it has regressed and is doing their best to push Tsurugi and Yuka in the ways that they deem fit for them, even if they don't agree with it. Talking about that later. I think what's interesting the most is Usami reminds me, that the moment they start treating the aliens like others, like people other than themselves, is the moment they open the doors to war and they open the doors to conflict. And one thing that Usami does not want to do is have this, encounter with the alien species become a war, because not only is that very possible, because as we see, the aliens getting labeled a Sukuna level threat, a special grade incident among the levels of Ryomen Sukuna, Usami and Mino confirm for themselves that that is not a lie, because even in just one representative they see coming down from the spaceship, the demonic alien that we saw in the very first chapter, it immediately pushes the idea that they are so much stronger than anything we have, in our generation at this moment. Because one of the worst things that could possibly be going on with this alien alliance or threat, we don't know yet, coming to us is, again, this is the weakest generation of sorcerers. But part of the reason that we are the weakest generation of sorcerers is because we lack people like Usami amongst the adults that are able to inspire the light of sorcerers. We have seen time and time again, even from the early days of the Heian era, that selfishness, more so self-indulgence, not always in a bad way, but just being able to be aware of knowing what is best for you, whether that take you down the right path or the good path, as we see in Gojo and Sukuna, the two honored ones of the series. Either way, self-indulging and doing what you believe is right for you makes a strong sorcerer. When you are held to standards and stuck in traditional aspects of clans and all of these, political nonsense, it's tough to really break out and do yourself. It's tough to really be an individual. So we see the effects of this in Japan, but not just in Japan, how Japan has operated as a country since this Kyoto Treaty was signed, ignoring all of the criminal aspects of the revelations of cursed energy to the world. When it comes to Japan revealing cursed energy and now being responsible for everything in regards to the paranormal, they have not only, because they were an island, country, and they've always been somewhat exclusionary, in general, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to, homogenization amongst their, citizens and everything like that, their population. Now you have, 50,000 aliens on their doorstep looking to, immediately show up at the countryside. And first of all, it immediately makes me think of Drama Queen, and it's so funny because this series immediately takes it in a different direction. Because again, Usami as the guiding light of the adults, not only correcting Mino and saying they can't treat these aliens like they're an infectious disease, they have to treat these people like normal human beings and give them grace, just as they would any other country or any other, race of people on their own world, even if they don't know anything. But also at the same time, especially knowing the position that this puts them in, when they are so overwhelmed power-wise with the level of strength these alien sorcerers are capable of, their only hope is to, go peacefully. And Usami says this, being diplomatic, being politically nice, all of that stuff, only goes so far. And in Japan's case, since the Kyoto Treaty and having to deal with all of this paranormal stuff, they have immediately been just overall, even become even more exclusionary. Usami specifically says that they've adopted, the nationalism of the United States. And in these last 62 years, they have done nothing but, be in disagreement and be against expansion and be against different things that other countries have brought to them. And we see the actual immediate effects of Japan being that way in this chapter as well, because something that is extremely hysterical, and it might go, under, the river if you're not paying attention, is that when the aliens first appear, everyone is super duper worried about language barriers. Everyone is super duper worried about these characters being able to touch base and talk with the aliens to establish, good nature and, good relationships. And they put all of this time and effort into technology to hopefully decode and translate the alien language just for the aliens to be able to speak Japanese, no problem. Or, I'm sorry, speak English, no problem. And they met with America first. Because again, as we see in the first chapter, they thought America was the powerhouse of the world, but again, Japan handles all paranormal aspects, so they had to go to Japan, not America. And the Americans, instead of letting them know that they could have just as easily, talked English, they withheld that information from them. And that's strictly a fault of the Japanese government being in disagreement, being against, globalism and being against working with other countries because they've had all of this responsibility put on them. So Usami says, stuff like that is going to happen when, we make enemies, not actual enemies, quote unquote, but we make passive aggressive, you make passive aggressive jabs at people that are annoying you. And that was a passive aggressive jab on behest of the United States. So this series is definitely going to get into a much larger aspect of politics, because Usami, finishing his meeting with Mino, says that all of this, politics, all of this diplomacy isn't going to solve anything. What will solve things is by allowing the youth, people like Sarugi, people like Yuka, to melt the hearts of the Sumerians with their not just acceptance, but with, their passion, with the things that they believe in and what they'll strive to do. Because a bunch of, rickety old adults in suits are only going to go so far, because not for nothing, you have the exact opposite, side basically going through the exact same issue. We see when Maru, the alien that was with Tsurugi and Yuka in that short little scouting mission last chapter, you see him actually talk with Cross, his twin brother, who is a much, higher ranked officer in the Sumerian force, clearly. And, Maru, who says, hey, we've learned that everyone is the same. We've learned that, we look just like, our race. Humans have good and bad people. They're sorcerers. Some people are good, some people are bad. Let's do our best to make peace. And Cross says, as much as, Maru thinks that's easy to believe, they still don't know if they see eye to eye with the humans, and they're unsure if this is a matter of coexistence or if it's conflict. And Maru, having met Yuka, Tsurugi, and connected with them, goes, I can't believe you would even suggest that this would end up in conflict. There's no way this could happen. This world has such great things like food. And Cross says, you know what? If you truly believe that, keep doing you and prove to us that we're wrong. And it shows to you that just like Mino, the aliens, despite, extending their gratitude and being polite, when it comes to meeting and politically discussing diplomacy behind closed doors, they're just like, hey, can we trust these people? Should we just take them over? Or should we be able to coexist? Or is it just easier to completely conquer these people? And again, it shows that no matter what conflict, there's always going to be people on both sides that, want different things, especially when it's completely two entirely different species that don't know each other whatsoever. And again, it reminds me of, the Phantom Menace of Star Wars, when politics was introduced into the prequels and everyone was very confused. And it's going to be a hit or miss with some people. Some people are going to really, really like that stuff. Some people are going to really, really hate it. It really comes down to who you are as a person. Personally, I think stuff like this is interesting. I love when you have entire factions of, people, whether it be based on species, family, clans, anything like that. I love it when you have, some level of real world, effect of society and any kind of crazy shit like that. So I'm very interested to see, how this progresses, if this is the way that Gege plans to take this series. Because again, with Usami as the main beacon of, the adults in the situation, because we don't know too much yet about the rest of the higher ups or the rest of the Japanese government. We may, knowing Gege, we might not learn too much, so we have to work with what we can. It's very clear that Usami believes in his students, or the young sorcerers of this generation, even though they are the weakest. And that makes me think that, as we see later on in this chapter, Yuka and Tsurugi are going to push past and break the limits of this generation. And I mean, they're gonna have to, if they want any hope of stopping this alien threat that is potentially capable of enacting just as much destruction as King of Curses Sukuna Ryomen. And I'm excited to see where that all goes. Again, whether you want to say it's woke, whether you're just interested in overall seeing how aliens and humans integrate and, discuss that kind of politics. I think whether you want to say it's Gege forcing a narrative, I think it's honest, it's realistic, because again, if aliens showed up in America or in any other country, there would be just as much real world issues that we're dealing with. So I think instead of outright ignoring those aspects of your story and going for a more immature, good versus evil, aliens invading, and it's just sorcerers versus aliens, I like that Akutami isn't afraid to explore all aspects of the world, at least enough that we get to paint a coherent picture of it. And, we'll see, is Cross, based off of the final chapter, an actual, an against human racist or something like that, because as we see, Maru is more than willing to talk with humans. The moment Tsurugi mentions, or even touches base and talks with Cross, he immediately dips out and says, don't talk to me. So we may actually see that, there may be bias and there may be prejudice amongst the aliens, just like I almost imagine and guarantee we're going to see prejudice and, bias amongst the human side as well. And I'm interested to see where all of this goes for sure. No matter, how you feel about it. I think it putting Gege in the writer chair allows him to fully focus on and build this world, and this is more than I could have ever asked for. I just hope we fully get to explore it, unlike last time. That's all I can really say. Yeah, they're meant to directly parallel each other for sure. The two stories. Let me go ahead and let me touch base with some of these donos. Sorry if I missed you guys. Tiberius, thank you for the dono. Do you think Farmer Kashimo ever seen some crop circles? You know what? Based off of, you know, how this could potentially be, you know, you know, one of the theories that I want to touch base on later is, you know, what if we go the Boruto route of aliens being the origination of cursed energy? And maybe Kashimo did see some crop circles, man. You never know. You never know. One look at how humans treat people they deem as the other, they would nuke the planet. True, Avant. This could be a commentary on Japan's current situation. Immigrant conversations are so insane over there right now. 100% Avant. I think it's very clear. I think it's very clear. You can also see that in a lot of Japanese media too, right? Like, this is not something that is new. If you look at any kind of Japanese media that's released over the last couple of years, no offense, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, a lot of it is baby's first racism allegory, or an attempt at tackling a problem that we know for sure Japanese people that have lived strictly in Japan really don't have much familiarity with. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing, but you think it's very apparent. I mean, like, I can think of multiple things off the top of my head. Final Fantasy 16, you have the bearers, the marks, the marked, and you have the whole discussion of, you know, how bearers are treated, and, you know, the bearers are slaves, and blah, 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 and they should be freed, and revolution, all that stuff. You have Metaphor Refantasio, where pretty much the whole entire, you know, idea of the game is people are set into 9 different categories of people, and, you know, your main character is the bottom batch, and you literally have people fucking shit talking you just in the street as you're walking around, like spitting at you and fucking finding you gross as hell, and it's like damn, bro. And again, are these topics important? Yes, 110%. But like, I think it's very prevalent, what a lot of recent stories in Japan have kind of been covering lately. You know, the stories we tell, you know, move around the things that we're thinking about. Drama Queen, you have, obviously, we got Fishman Island in One Piece, and it's not that I don't think it's impossible for the series to cover these topics without it being, you know, prevalent. I'm not saying this is anything new, you know. I'm not saying Japan has never covered the, you know, you've got Pokemon, the first movie, you know. All right, you know, it goes back even further. I'm just saying, you know, it's also become very prevalent too. But you also have, because you also have people in Japan like Usami, literally, that are trying to get Japan to expand their horizons. I think a lot of it is because Japan doesn't have that many immigrants, so that messaging isn't as explored as Western. No, 100%, Jesse, 110%. My problems, I wouldn't even say they're problems. My opinions on those things are more old man shouts at clouds. Like, you know what I mean? More like, all right, I don't, you know, I'm almost in my 30s. Like, I don't need it spelled out for me that racism is bad, you know. But at the same time, I think you can do a good racism plot and make it, you know, you can, you know, I think you can do subtlety to it. I think you can make it interesting. I think you can make it very, you know, in-depth and fucking, you know, fun and exciting to go through. But I'm more so talking about, you know what I mean? Like, when, like, the main character is outright saying, you know, like, maybe we should just all accept each other despite our differences. And it's like the meme of the Drake, like, you know what the Drake guy when he's helping the dude on the computer. It's like, oh, no, I had never thought about that. You know, it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's so on the nose. It's kind of like that, where again, it's like you can tell, like, I can tell you meant well with the story, but I can also tell that you're tackling this from a narrative that you really don't have too much understanding of the topic. It's the same way that I feel about 86 without getting completely off topic with what I'm saying. Same way I feel about 86. It's so much like, it's so in my face. It's like, dog, I can just imagine you really just didn't do much research into this. And you thought this was a cool idea, and then you just ran with it. But anyway, without getting too off topic, move on to the next segment that I want to discuss, which is the aliens' power. Don't bring up aliens unless you're gonna make that video. I know, bro. It'll come out one day. I promise you. It'll come out one day. I swear. Maybe when the second season is actually coming. We'll see. Anyway, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. I genuinely appreciate all you guys coming to hang out. What is up, Jacob? What up, China? What up, Deno? Prodigy, how you doing? You got Penguin and you got Moye, man. This sorcerer generation is the weakest there is. Yes, that is so true. Probably about the same time you watched that chapter skit, the Pokemon skit. Yeah, probably. Probably. So anyway, what I do want to move into as well is overall hey, got cross-eyed Billy, thank you for the 10. Appreciate that. Nice mustache nerd. Love Jet. I appreciate that. Happy to hear from you, dog. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you, and I miss you. I miss you big time. You know, it's so funny. I was just thinking about you today earlier. That's so funny. You know, not doom scrolling Twitter. Aw, man, you know what? You just gotta go no contact with social media, dog. That's just what I've been doing. I engage with social media like so as little as necessary, to be honest with you, because it's just a headache. It's not worth it. Even as someone that has to use social media for their job a little bit, like I try not to at all. One love. For sure, dog. For sure. One love. Maru, come back next chapter? Yeah, I definitely think so. In regards to the aliens, I know a lot of people have been talking about this. A lot of people are concerned about this, so I definitely want to bring this up big time. And then I want to discuss a little bit about Yuka and Tsurugi. So let's see here. Let me see here. Can I get a better image of these motherfucking aliens? Because I think the Sukuna references, a lot of people are bringing them up to contention. A lot of people are not happy with them. So I do want to touch base with them. That's a better image for this segment for sure. So, in regards to the aliens' power level, because I have seen that get brought up into contention multiple times. A lot of people are not the happiest or just don't believe it's completely truthful that these aliens are meant to be a special grade incident of the likes of Ryomen Sukuna. And while I can definitely understand why some people wouldn't be, you know, the happiest with that, I definitely don't think it's out of left field to say, because we have seen this new character get brought up time and time again in these last two chapters, this demonic horned alien that even the appearance of, the moment he shows up, Mino and Usami are shook beyond their belief and cannot believe the amount of aura that's radiating off of this character. And they think that he himself is the Sukuna level threat just off the bat. And I think that that's why a lot of people are confused. Are we really going the route that every single one of these aliens, or at least a decent fraction of them, are going to be Sukuna level? I'm not entirely sure that's going to be the case, because something that a lot of people have brought up, and while I think we should take it with a grain of salt, definitely I do think there's a layer of truth to it as well. One thing that's very apparent: Usami, Mino, these characters of the new generation, this supposed weakest generation of sorcerers, right, don't really know what a Ryomen Sukuna level threat would be like. As we see with Yuka and Tsurugi later when they're even discussing Sukuna, it's almost like Sukuna is a bedtime story monster at this point to a lot of these people. Ryomen Sukuna is a scary, evil nightmare that you tell your children to, and you mix him into stories at night to make them scared. As Tsurugi and Yuka describe Sukuna, he is an absolute monster that was actually able to wound and give their grandfather a scar, something that he was left with for his entire life. And we also know all of the other struggles that the Shinjuku Showdown sorcerers dealt with in regards to stopping the culling game. So it's not out of left field that when these stories get passed on, they get built up over time to be much larger than they actually are. In 62 to 68 years, it makes sense that someone like Yuji would be brought up to be a similar level to someone like Gojo. But again, these people have no idea what they're talking about, right? I think if we're going to extend that kind of courtesy to these aliens, I think we should extend that kind of courtesy to the dramatically large and vague statements that are being made for characters that are from the future. Of course, a grandson and granddaughter are going to think Yuta Okotsu and Maki Zenin are some of the two strongest characters in the entire series. Of course, Sukuna, this legendary beast that even characters from the main series heard nothing but crazy tales about, they're going to think that this is the peak of the peak, and they're going to use this as almost a level of measurement, even though none of them even know what is actually talking about. And I think what is very clear is that all 50,000 aliens invading Japan as a whole would definitely be a significant threat to the country, potentially the entire planet, and would be on a level to Ryomen Sukuna. However, it's also, very, very apparent that these people do think just this demonic alien alone would be enough to conquer the entire country. And whether you want to say that's because this person is surprisingly powerful, or again, you want to attribute this to this generation of sorcerers is nothing compared to the generations of the past. And that's nothing new either. And I don't know where the idea is that sorcery would continue growing stronger got from, because if anything, sorcery has been growing weaker and weaker and weaker since the Heian era. That was one of the largest points of contention in the main series when it came to characters that were in the culling game. Remember, Kajimo was able to get over 200 points simply just because everybody that he encountered was an absolute terrible fighter. Yorozu was a threat that was able to handle 15-finger Sukuna, the same 15-finger Sukuna that not a single person in Shibuya was even able to handle. And again, 15-finger Sukuna was dog-walking Jogo, and Jogo was able to kill Nanami, Naobito, and Maki in less than 10-20 seconds. Granted, all of these characters were fatigued after fighting Dagon, but Dagon was also able to put the work on them with domain expansion relatively easily as well. So, Curse Spirits had been growing in power since Gojo Satoru went on the scene. You even have statements from Naobito Zenin specifically mentioning that Dagon being able to fight 3 grade 1 sorcerers as an unregistered special grade is a revolutionary moment in history for him. Naobito, the person that lived to old age in a career of sorcery, right? Something that is unheard of. So you have the current head of the Zenin clan saying that he's surprised the special grade curse can fight 3 grade 1s, 2 grade 1s and a grade 1 candidate. So it makes sense that curses were also relatively weaker in this age as well. It makes sense that 60 years later, especially after Sukuna was quelled, and I have to imagine there weren't as many big problems or conflicts that kept sorcerers in their peak condition, you know, peace breeds weakness sometimes. And it makes absolute sense that this new generation of sorcerers will be the weakest one yet. And that makes them all the more vulnerable to an alien invasion, especially when you have just one of these aliens being able to provide so much of a potential threat. They themselves could probably take on the current Jujutsu society and potentially win. So at this point, you can look at this one of two ways. Either you have, actually you can look at this one of three ways. Either you have all 50,000 aliens invading at once is a Sukuna level threat. You have just one alien alone, potentially more of them, are so powerful that they're able to rival Sukuna's power. Or three, the also very likely interpretation of everything, which is all of the sorcerers of this generation are not only so weak that a special grade alien that is, you know, akin to maybe disaster level, maybe even potentially weaker, we really don't know yet, because again, the people that give us this scaling are Usami and Mino. It's also possible these sorcerers that are around right now really don't know anything. They're really so out of the loop and disconnected from actual sorcery that it's going to take new people like Yuka and Tsurugi fighting the aliens to actually uncover how strong these characters are. Because again, now that people like Yuta and people like Maki are gone, it's up to people like Yuka and Tsurugi to meet this foe, meet this threat all the way. And something tells me that no matter how many new characters get added, if we actually do get a side cast to Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo and it's not just the story of Yuka and Tsurugi, I don't think we'll probably see anybody actually reach a Sukuna level of power at all, because it's also very important to bring up that even the Ryomen Sukuna of the main series wasn't the same Heian-era Sukuna power, right? That Sukuna that we fought in Shinjuku Showdown specifically was not of the same power of the Heian era. And if we did fight Heian era Sukuna in Shinjuku Showdown, we would have lost. So unless we think that the weakest generation of sorcerers is going to breed two sorcerers that are not only able to reach Maki Zenin and Yuta Okotsu level, but they're going to be able to surpass that and fight a Heian era level Sukuna threat on their own, I really doubt that completely. I really definitely do not see that being a thing. So I'm much more privy to believe it is just they're using Sukuna as a scary word to make it very clear to us how dire the consequences of an all-out war between humans and aliens could be. I don't think, not only do I think none of these characters in this generation even know what a Sukuna level of power would look like, I also don't think it's even possible for, you know, sorcerers of this generation to handle a Sukuna level threat. So again, I think we should take this with a grain of salt. I think it is very clearly exaggerated, and I think if we want to say a Sukuna level threat is a valid take, I think we should just take that as the entire 50,000, you know, strong civilization of Simorians as a whole. Will we see more powerful aliens besides just this demonic horn looking alien? I'm sure we will, because if you ask me, I think the aliens are going to play a replacement for curse spirits in this new Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo world that we get. But you guys are just gonna have to let me know what you all think, because I'm genuinely curious still what people are going to say about the aliens, you know, 10, 15 chapters down the line, and see how many aliens get introduced and how big of a narrative they do play into the story, because they seem to be the main stronghold of everything. But I just don't see it being likely that any of these people could fight with Sukuna one-on-one and win. But maybe I'm wrong, because, you know, as we'll get into later, maybe, you know, we are going the Boruto route, and this alien race is the origination of all curse energy as a whole. But I think if you know, paid attention to the politics aspect of the chapter review that we did earlier, I think you can very clearly see it might just be a case of Akutami bringing up a near identical being of people that take out space travel, take out the third eye. They're the exact same as we are, but we're so scared and worried to coexist with these group of people, and we're ready to throw hands for no reason. As Maru already pointed out, we figured it out, we're all alike, why are we even fighting in the first place? So I don't know if these aliens are just a convenient metaphor, or they really will hold a bigger place as to why people like Sukuna were so strong. But one thing I can definitely guarantee you is, seeing what sorcerers have been reduced to in this day and age, if one person holds the power of Ryoma and Sukuna in their hands, yeah, maybe some of you guys were right in those knee-jerk reactions that power scaling in Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo is gonna go hella crazy. But I doubt it. I do severely doubt it, just with everything we've seen. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. Not gonna lie, that dude with the horns may be weaker than Sukuna, but oh my god, he got aura. Yeah, I definitely see what you're talking about. I don't think you're out of left field to say that. He definitely looks pretty dope. He definitely looks pretty sick. Wasn't Usami overseas during the run of JJK? Yeah, he was out. He was actually out looking for the Fountain of Youth. He found it. That's when he came back right at the end. Usami found the Fountain of Youth. That's why he's still so young. What I'm getting at is he might be plotting with the United States. No, I was just kidding. I definitely understand what you're saying. Sorry. But no, yeah, it's completely possible that Usami might be an op. But I mean, also, you do have Usami directly contradicting the United States and saying they don't want to be like the United States. But I guess it's really tough to say, right? We're just gonna have to wait and see. We're only 2 chapters in. I'm really interested to see how in-depth some of these character interactions and some of these narratives really go, right? It really could go any way. Guys, really quick, I am gonna go because I'm getting parched. I be yapping, and I think I'm gonna grab some gamer subs. So yeah, guys, I will be right back. I do still got 2 more segments that I want to talk about. Specifically, I want to go over Yuka and Tsurugi a little bit and touch base on them. And then I do want to go into all of the fan theories from worst to best and go over them. So we still got plenty of time left on the stream. Hit that like button if you have not already. I sincerely appreciate all you guys being here. You guys are all great. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. Again, hit that like button. Hit the hype button if it's available. I don't know if they're available in streams. And I'll be right back. Enjoy dog cam while I'm gone, right? I'll be right back, Bubba's. All right, I hope they gave you riveting commentary. Yeah, it was Sadie giving you the death stare. So, while we're in the transitionary phase, I figured it'd be great just to, you know what, let's just transition right now to the one, the only amazing sponsor of the stream, Gamersups. Gamersups. Thank you for sponsoring as always. And I got some raw meat here, caffeine free, because it is 6 p.m. and I'm not trying to be off the wall. So if you guys don't even want the caffeine, you just want the caffeine. I'm sorry, you just want the caffeine. You just want the nootropics. You want all the vitamin C, the vitamin D, the vitamin B6, B12, all that good stuff, and you know, the little pump in your jump. Then definitely consider getting some Gamersups. I love it. I drink it every morning to start my day. Genuinely, it is better in my opinion than a cup of coffee because you can put as much caffeine as you want. You can put 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops, whatever you want to put in there. You throw it in some water. You get an awesome little shake cup. You have your own, or you can get one, and you know, you shake. You shake, you shake, you shake. And while I'm shaking, what I'm gonna go do is I'm gonna go to the website here, and I'm going to show you guys some of the flavors that they offer, some of the cool things that they do, because I don't want to annoy you guys with the sound of my shaker. Thank you so much, China Doll, for the 5 gifted members. Appreciate the love and support. Thank you, China. They've got GG Energy. They got the caffeine free. They got AFK for sleep support. They got nice, awesome waifu cups. Let's check out some of those cool flavors. They got Plowed and Proud. What a flavor. Leave your taste buds plowed and proud with this new GG from Vienna, featuring a crisp canned apple rhubarb flavor. Ooh. It's a perfect balance between tart, cranberry, and sweet red apple. Don't be shy. Come get plowed. Let's fucking go, baby. BBL GG is really, really good. I really, really liked it. If you like blueberry lemon, I've been really, really, really loving the Acid Rain. Acid Rain is super duper good. You got Klaxosaurus Blood if you like Darling in the Franks. I've seen a couple of you guys get some Vase Bloodlust. You've got JoJo's Ocean Stone, or Stone Ocean Fruit, which I absolutely love as well if you like plum flavors. Yeah, you got Happy Juice, Chug Juice. Well, you know what? If you're, you know what, Xavier, I'm sorry to hear that, but you know what will come in handy? Some awesome Gamersups. I'm sorry. That's mean. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that, Xavier. We're here for you, 110%. This is the community to be here, and we are all here for you, genuinely. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I know that was mean, but seriously. That being said, long story short, guys, if you're interested and you don't even know what to try, all of these flavors, all of these waifu stuff just sounds crazy, then yeah, what you can do is you can click at the very top here for some free samples. So whether you use my code to get 10% off your order, or you use the code to get 10% off your, you know, your shipping for free samples, get some free samples on me just to try it. If you want to get a bunch of, you know, a sample pack where they send you a bunch of stuff, and that way you can try the flavors. Or if any of these flavors seem cool, again, they have really decent descriptions. Like Acid Rain, I really, really like that flavor. They just recently sent me that. Bold Blend brings the zing of sour peach candy ring straight to your taste buds. That shit is delicious. And again, you can get it caffeine free, and it's got a bunch of really, really, really good vitamins and servings in it. Again, it's not just a bunch of caffeine and sugar where you're literally going to get completely, you know what, like obliterated and crash. It's got good vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D3, B6, B12, vitamin H. It also has nootropics for energy and focus. It's got lutein and astaxanthin, I don't know how to pronounce it, for eye health, antioxidants, and again, no sugar for that no bad crash. So again, try some gamer subs for free samples. Use my code NOOP or get 10% off your order. And thank you, Gamer Subs, for sponsoring the channel. You guys are amazing. I've got my raw meat ready to go. Absolutely delicious. And if you're curious, if you do want to try raw meat, because I'm terrible at describing flavors, I'm gonna need to read this to you. And then we'll move on to the rest of the Jujutsu Kaisen stream. And the name of the promise is an iron-packed punch, but delivers a mouthful of watermelon and cantaloupe. This flavor is perfect for those who like their drinks to come with the side of existential crisis. It's all the summer sweetness you didn't know you needed, masquerading under the guise of a butcher shop special. So yeah, genuinely. Raw meat is a good flavor. I love it. Get acid. So yeah, I gave you a couple different options. Go, like I said, click the link in the pinned message in the description. Thank you, GamerSubs, for sponsoring. 10% off with code NOOP, or just click again and click here for some free energy samples. If you are a new customer, you can get some free samples, which just proves that they trust their product, right? They're not, they know that you're gonna be buying more. And I promise you, as someone that's been using it for 2 to 3 years now, you will be getting more. Xavier, I love you. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to just come back in like 24 hours, bro. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. But if this is what you're coming here to do, I appreciate you. You can definitely, you're always welcome in the community. But it's only a 24-hour timeout. But yeah. Anyway. It's always love, but let's move on here. So, tell him to play Bayonetta. That'll lift the spirits. Hey, listen. True. Anyway, y'all, hit that like button if you have not already. It really helps the stream way more than you know. Thank you for dealing with my shill. And let's go back into the segment. So this is going to be a short segment. This one isn't going to be as long because I've got more of the fan theories to go over. But I do want to touch base on Yuka and Tsurugi and their whole dynamic, right? So, Yuka and Tsurugi, I think, being the main focus of the story is definitely a really good idea. Because it shows that while people from the original series did their best, they're not going to be around forever. And I think that's something that this is always trying to get across as well. Because the main point of Jujutsu Kaisen, the main point of what Gojo was always saying, right? Oh, I missed a dono? Oh shit, thank you so much, Jesse. Avant, thank you for the 5. Sorry I missed it. I love how Gege decided to design the aliens with South Asian visual inspiration, not full sci-fi. I look at the diplomat and then Google Buddha statue. 100% Avant. I completely agree with you. I do like the way that he is. Now that's one thing. I don't know if it's him or if it's who's the artist that's helping him. I don't want to mispronounce his name. Yuji Iwasaki. So I don't know if Yuji Iwasaki is doing help with the character designs or anything like that, but I completely agree. It is definitely more of a, Southeastern vibe, more of a Asian inspired vibe, as opposed to just outright aliens in little green men. I feel like the Otsutsuki were kind of similar, right? In Naruto, where it wasn't outright, aliens and antennas and everything. Like I feel like it's more religiously inspired aliens, because at the end of the day, something that I've always thought was super duper interesting is just the overall idea of, you know, gods, of, you know, religious entities all being just aliens in the first place. Isn't that always one of the most original conspiracy theories and fan theories, that God and other religions' gods are just aliens that came to visit and then left? I mean, again, whether you believe what you want to believe, or I'm not saying either here nor there, but I've always thought that concept was very interesting as a whole. So I do really love the inspiration of the alien designs, for sure, especially with, again, the connection that these characters both have sorcery involved here. Buddha was the first Jujutsu sorcerer. Does anyone have a theory about how the brother's heavenly restriction will finally get realized? It's weird his isn't yet, since he's not a twin. Well, aren't they twins? Aren't they twins? That's very interesting, right? I think they are twins. Maybe they're not. Maybe I'm wrong. Is one older than the other? I might be wrong. Brother is older, I think. Older by 1 year. Ah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious. I wonder if, I mean, also you have to imagine that like Tsurugi might be just a way for Akutami to explore just a different side of lower cursed energy sorcerers. Like Yuji was a fun way to explore punch and kick merchant, you know, in a world of sorcerers with crazy curse techniques. But one big aspect that a lot of people were upset with is people really liked Miwa's character, right? People really liked Kusakabe's character. So I wonder if Tsurugi will go full, you know, Maki heavenly restriction, which is what the chapter kind of it infers, right? At the end of the chapter, both of these characters realize that their grandma and grandpa won't be there for them anymore, and this is their chance to actually prove themselves and not just become the new Maki and Yuta, but become their own, you know, versions of them. Yeah, Maru could also use his harmony ability to fully awaken Tsurugi. I also think there is the aspect of the ring that I do want to talk about in the theory segment, and that could go a multitude of different ways. But I wonder what Tsurugi's main, you know, awakening point will be. Honestly, I wonder even what Yuka's will be as well, because we really don't know anything about Yuka. We know more about Tsurugi's state of sorcerer than we know about Yuka's at all. All we saw about Yuka was her, you know, her little tiger claw ability. So we really don't even know. Like, I wonder if Yuka is able to use more than just a tiger claw. What if she's not? I really don't know. We really have no idea. Like, it's also possible Yuka could be more of a basic sorcerer as well. What if the tiger claw is all she's able to do? What if, like, she's strictly just, you know, a Yuji, but she just uses her cursed energy in a different way? If we're just assuming that, you know, these sorcerers are weaker, I think it's also possible that, you know, she could maybe, you know, awaken different types of cursed energy manipulation. Like, I think this sequel, quote unquote, is like such a great way for Akutami to go return to form and go full basics with Jujutsu. There are so many things about the Jujutsu Kaisen world that were just left in the background because our characters just didn't use them, right? Like talismans. Nanami's entire blunt blade was wrapped in talismans. We even see in Phantom Parade, Saki Window would wrap talismans all around her hands to increase her, you know, curse energy output when she punched. You know, we see the curse user in this in the last chapter using talismans to empower his barrier technique. And again, with Tsurugi having not really any cursed energy to begin with, and if he has any at all, it's like extremely weak. And he's focusing primarily around using different curse tools and using Bato sword drawing and other aspects of cursed objects. Cursed objects were also kind of pushed to the wayside. There is definitely still curse tools that were a big part of, you know, the world. But besides Playful Cloud, you know, and, you know, Slaughter Demon, which was barely brought up as well, and, you know, Maki's Soul Split Katana, cursed tools and cursed objects were also kind of, you know, pushed into the background of the story, because again, things like cursed techniques and overpowered cursed energy and overpowered complicated abilities and domains took precedence. Whereas again, I feel like Modulo is a great way to explore that more base side, the more mystery side and simple side of sorcery that Gege kind of always wanted to begin with, right? Like if you read interviews with early Gege Akutami and Akutami as he was creating Jujutsu Kaisen and putting forth ideas before Jujutsu Kaisen got accepted, like if any of you guys, if you were here for the data book streams that we did, where we read all of the data book together and we read the Gege interviews and all that stuff, like you'll know like the paranormal investigation aspect and, you know, going back to basics and, oh, we've got aliens, but we also have, you know, cursed spirits, and we explore just all things supernatural, and it's on like so much more of a mediocre, like smaller scale. That is, you know, what Gege kind of always wanted Jujutsu Kaisen to be. And he made the one shot of Jujutsu Kaisen, and then they were like, oh yes, take this and turn this into an entire series. And then you also have to remember, right, looking at Jujutsu Sosen, the very original first draft of Jujutsu Kaisen, you even have parts of it where the culling game was supposed to be the very first arc of the series. Curse spirits weren't even really a major aspect of things. So I think what it was is Jujutsu Kaisen was, you know, Gege going fully into the battle shonen aspect, and then he even brings it up that curse spirits were brought up towards the very end of the creation standpoint, as a plot point that his editor introduced to kind of make things more interesting. And Gege went through the curse spirit aspect of the story, going through, you know, Origin of Obedience, you know, the Mahito arc, and outright admitted that he didn't really even like the Junpei Mahito stuff while he was writing it, even though I think that was one of the more powerful parts of the series. That's what kind of hooked me personally. You even have, you know, after Shibuya finishes and the main story of the curse spirits kind of folds over and we get back into the original plot line that Gege always intended to finish through Jujutsu Kaisen with, the curse spirits kind of ultimately fall out, because again, a lot of the more basic background aspects of sorcery were just there to create that, make that world that, you know, curse spirits, all this stuff, you know, that, you know, his editors and everyone wanted to make the world feel more fleshed out, was added in. Whereas now I feel like, realizing how popular that side of the story could be, I feel like Gege is now going to go back and focus on more of those aspects, because that's what everyone loved. So that's why I think that Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, like for all the people that preferred the beginning of Jujutsu Kaisen and Shibuya to the culling game. Now, personally, I'm not one of those people. I personally really prefer the culling game side of Jujutsu. I prefer the sorcerer battles, the curse techniques, all that stuff. I think curse spirits were fun and awesome, and I do love Shibuya Incident. But I think it's very easy and obvious to say that, you know, for me, I prefer the culling games aspect of Jujutsu Kaisen. However, a lot more mainstream anime fans preferred the curse spirit side. So for me, I really think that Modulo will be what a lot of people always wanted Jujutsu Kaisen to be, just with different characters. You know, it may not be the characters that people want, which I think will ultimately be the main complaint most people have. But I still think that as far as the story beats that will hit and the settings, environments, and fights that we'll have, I think are going to be what everyone kind of wanted Jujutsu Kaisen to be in the first place. I could be wrong. but who knows? I could be wrong. Now, if you haven't already, everyone, hit that like button. It really helps the stream way more than you know. We are going to get into something fun that I wanted to do, that I thought would be a really cool idea. I wanted to go over so really quickly, I wanted to finish the stream by going over some of the best and worst fan theories that have come out of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo since its inception. And I just want to kind of rank them on a simple tier list, nothing crazy. I've got about 5 main theories that I want to focus on here. I want to fully dive into, explain these theories, and then also put them on a list of how likely and how cool it would be if they happened. So if there are theories that you like, awesome. If there are theories that you don't like, you know what? They may not come true at all. But I think just based off of everything that Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo's world has shown us, I wanted to get into these theories because I found them the most interesting, and I think they would add the most to not only the Modulo story, but also connecting everything back to the mainline series of Jujutsu Kaisen. So that being said, I don't have them in any kind of particular order. However, let's just waste no time and get into one of the biggest theories that everyone has been bringing up and talking about. It's the theory that you can't go a single chapter or modulo video without having someone mention or discuss, because it is ultimately something that has been talked about even before Modulo was even revealed to us as a Jujutsu Kaisen spinoff. And that is the fact that the alien side of Jujutsu Kaisen, whatever it is, the reason that these Sumerian aliens, the species that was, created in an entirely different galaxy, has the same kind of genetics, the same kind of power of cursed energy and sorcery that we do, is, of course, the idea that Tengen, Sukuna, Kenjaku, or some other fourth person, one of these original beings that are not only some of the strongest characters in the series, but also some of the characters that have been around the longest, have had the largest impact on the growth and expansion of sorcery. But not for nothing, it was brought up to us as far back as Hidden Inventory from the Star Plasma cult that Lord Tengen just randomly showed up one day in the Nara period, the time period right before the Heian era, and began spreading the good word of Jujutsu. Now, there are a couple things that poke holes in this theory that Tengen, Sukuna, or Kenjaku somehow tie their origins to aliens. And for starters, with Tengen, that is because Tengen has been shown to have a human form before. The Star Plasma Vessel Ritual's entire point is to make sure that as Tengen evolves and continually, grows and develops as a being due to her immortality, Tengen requires a new young vessel that is compatible in order to go back to human form and not go too far to where their evolution can not only not be tracked, but where Tengen may become a different being with a different mindset entirely. The Tengen that we see in the Culling Game arc of Jujutsu Kaisen may not be the same Tengen that we have been dealing with up before this point. There was not a Star Plasma vessel that was able to be found in time for Tengen's evolution. So while it's not really touched on and explored deeply, it is constantly referenced and foreshadowed that the Tengen we meet now may not have our best interest in heart and may not be of sound mind. And also the idea that it is now more similar to a cursed spirit than an overall human in general is why Kenjaku is able to absorb Tengen and begin the merger in the first place, or almost activate the merger. Now, again, Tengen having an original human form completely disputes this always. However, if you really do look at the whole eyes of Sukuna, the third eye of aliens is something that Tsurugi and Yuka say in this most recent chapter is not like anything they've ever seen any other sorcerer to have. Now, who's to say that Tengen wasn't a more humanoid species of alien that came to our world and ended up, you know, liking the human form, and instead of progressing their normal alien state that always happens to any alien of their species, they preferred the human side because that's where they lived amongst. You also have Sukuna being an alien up for debate simply because we have seen and heard Sukuna was born human, born from a human mother, although we don't have much information in regards to Sukuna's father. It could be some kind of alien-human hybrid shenanigans. That is definitely something that is not out of the question and was not brought up or even talked about in the mainline series. The history of Sukuna and the Heian era, including Tengen's period of the Nara, is entirely enshrouded in shadow. We know nothing. And while we know Sukuna has some traces of humanity within him, it's also very clear that there was something about Sukuna that made him different from everybody else, without a doubt. Sukuna was the strongest sorcerer in not just all of history, but for 1,000 years, no one was able to even compete with his power. Gojo was the closest person in thousands of years to reach him. So it's hard to imagine that not only was Sukuna having this outstanding amount of power for no reason, but he was born this cursed wretch of a child that was deformed and distorted with his 4 arms, multiple eyes, a stomach mouth, all of these mutations and deformities on his body to the point that his mother didn't even want him. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that Sukuna simply just ate his twin in the womb, and that is why he had the double set of arms and mouth, but whether you want to say there is the Jujutsu, you know, mystery and Jujutsu aspect of twins, which we see with Maki and Mai, maybe that played a part in Sukuna's development into a distorted being, but there is also the possibility that aliens could be involved. I mean, Kenjaku is a living, breathing, and able to transfer bodies brain. We don't get any kind of explanation for that, why Kenjaku's brain is able to withstand thousands of years besides just simply body hopping. And we also don't know what Kenjaku's relationship to Tengen was. So there are multiple things to the alien aspect of Jujutsu that we really just don't know. And because the past has been left so open-ended by Akutami, it leaves open a lot of these crazy theories. There are definitely things that you could poke holes in to say this theory has no ground and makes no sense, but I definitely think they're not huge holes that make it impossible. More or less, these holes could be stitched around to make, you know, Tengen, Sukuna, or Kenjaku being aliens, or one or all of them, just even having ties to aliens, making sense. I don't think it's a terrible theory. I just think it requires a little bit more work to be done. So overall, I would probably say the origins of Jujutsu having something to do with aliens is a B-rated theory. While it's not perfect, it does have some cracks, and, you know, it does hold an issue of being the Star Wars midichlorian, the Boruto Utsutsuki problem of we didn't really need an explanation for Jujutsu. We didn't really need aliens to be involved in any of this nonsense. Tyler, thank you for the 5 gifted members. Appreciate the love. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we've got B tier for all of Jujutsu originating from aliens. What is our next theory? One that I think definitely holds more weight in bringing back beloved characters from the main series, which is why a lot of people want this to happen, but also because it's something that was technically foreshadowed in the main series that could play a part and make things fun. However, I think it's one of those very sensitive ideas that could either be a major hit or miss with the community, and that is the disaster curse family, or at least Mahito or other disaster curses being reborn in some way, shape, or form in this new Modulo series. We know after what Jogo said, he believes that after 100 years or close to it, it's possible that the disaster curses will be reformed and reborn once the collective fears surrounding nature, volcanoes and earth disasters, water, humanity, all of these different things that humanity will no doubt always be afraid of, will eventually amass to create a new curse womb and curse spirit of these disasters of the world. Now, you could argue that not enough time has passed. Completely possible that 60 years is not enough. Jogo did mention 100, but I do think it would be a fun way to reintroduce concepts that the original series did and just give fun things for old fans to enjoy while giving unique aspects for new fans to love as well. Because the reason I think this could be hit or miss is even if someone like Mahito returns and he's the only one, if that Mahito revival or reincarnation of Mahito comes back and they are not to the standard that some of these older fans prefer, it doesn't matter how much newer fans will like them, older fans will indeed riot completely and not enjoy that this even happened to begin with. While I think that the disaster curses returning could be something interesting to explore for a sequel series of Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole, I think that there are more problems that could come from one of the disaster curses or multiple of them returning than good. So I would probably give this theory around a C, because again, as someone that wanted the end of Jujutsu Kaisen to be old Yuji eliminating the new reborn Mahito, and that being the epilogue of Jujutsu Kaisen, I would love to see Akutami's take on a new form Mahito. Almost even if we took it as an oob aspect from Dragon Ball GT. If you take an evil character like Boo and you give them the potential to be a good character, I would even love to see that. And I would love to see Akutami in the writer's seat behind a character of that nature. But I just have to give this theory a C, because while I think it's a fun speculation and cool to headcanon and be like, wow, wouldn't that be cool if Akutami did that? Especially with the way that Chainsaw Man Part 2 was able to derive fun and enjoyment out of its series by revisiting some of the older villains in a different way. I just don't know if it's something that I would love to see. I think it would be a cool spin-off idea. Is it a great idea to implement into Modulo? Again, 50-50, could be hit or miss. Now, here is another theory that I really do kind of like, but also at the same time, I don't appreciate because it relies too heavily on the old parts of what worked in the main series. Again, bringing back the disaster curses, while fun, is just rehashing old stuff that we already loved instead of introducing new, unique ideas. And while this theory does bring back concepts from the original series, I think it brings up a lot of new things that possibly could not only bring a lot of excitement and interest into the story, but also answer a lot of questions and add a lot of satisfying payoffs to stuff that was never answered in Jujutsu Kaisen, the main series, which is some form of late activation or some kind of weird way that the merger of the culling game comes back into play, which is whether it is some kind of late method or through some kind of connection with Kenjaku and the aliens, or even the culling game and the merger just being some kind of old ancient ritual that even the aliens are aware of, or just outright Kenjaku playing the long game and Kenjaku's will being inherited was not necessarily Sukuna inheriting that will, but potentially someone 62 years, 68 years in the future inheriting that will and finishing Kenjaku's work, which, sure, you could argue that is also a derivative Boruto route to take the story of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. I think there are a lot of fun things that could come from this, which is essentially, one, we finally get to see what the merger has to offer. We're finally able to see what Kenjaku spent 1,000 years chasing after. we're finally able to have all of the fruits of Kenjaku's labor get paid off. It may have taken 60 something years to do, but for a character that spent 1,000 years to wait for something to happen, it wouldn't surprise me if he had a contingency plan 60 years into the future. I think that would also satisfy a lot of people's issues with Kenjaku's death, with him knowing that, hey, you know what, I had to wait 1,000 years, I may not get to see the merger, oh well, which I think is ridiculous. I would be pissed if I spent 1,000 years for something and not get to see it. He was that nonchalant because he knew he just had to wait a little bit longer. And again, what's 60 years to another 1,000? That's like when you get asked to stay at work and you've already spent 7 hours of your 8-hour shift. Like, yeah, you might as well work that extra 2 hours or so. You already did the rest of it. So yeah, or maybe the merger had some kind of connection to the aliens, and it was a ritual that maybe boosted the Sumerians or opened a portal to their planets. There are some fun ways that Gege could bring the merger, or effects of the merger, or Culling Game, or Kenjaku's meddling in Jujutsu back into Modulo to create an even greater evil and a third problem that may be exactly what the aliens, the Sumerians, and Jujutsu sorcerers of today need to get on each other's side. Nothing speaks creating alliances like having one big evil to get everyone together in facing. Who knows? Again, that may be a plotline we get, just not through the merger, because I think Akutami's explanation that he doesn't want to rely too heavily on the main narrative of Jujutsu Kaisen to have Modulo work. He kind of wants Modulo to be its own stand-aside thing and its own kind of take on where the Jujutsu Kaisen world can go and expand past that original narrative. I also think Akutami is going to put a lot of emphasis on not relying too much on that mainline series timeline and narrative, which may be a reason we don't see too many ideas or too many characters from the original series get brought up. Like we've barely seen Maki or Yuta's face, you know, in these chapters. So it's possible people are waiting for old Yuji, you know, old Hikari, all of these people. We may not ever get them. We may not even get their siblings or descendants. It may be Gege's complete idea and want to focus strictly on the Okotsu siblings and no one else. We really don't know. For such a short, potential 3-volume series, that might be the case. But, I mean, again, that being said, for such a 3-volume spin-off sequel, maybe having a threat like the merger makes it easy to tie everything into the overall timeline. But overall, I think the merger having a late activation or a contingency plan of the Culling Game merger playing a part in Modulo, while, again, potentially having ways that it could satisfy old lore and pay off some of Kenjaku's mishaps. I think based off of what Akutami has said about wanting to have this be a new era, a new timeline, just something completely original from the main series, I think it, again, just like the Disaster Curse theory, it relies too much on the main series and doesn't allow Modulo to be its own thing and create a story of its own that it's kind of setting out to. And I guess what you'll see is most of these theories do kind of paint a picture of what the wants of the Jujutsu Kaisen community currently are. For Modulo to be an answer to the just debilitating questions that the ending left us with. You can see this taking form in these theories, and whether Akutami gives us what we want in the series is up for debate completely, you know? It really is up for debate entirely. We really do not know. Hey, Roses, what's up? Missed these streams. I missed having you in here. Do you have a schedule? So right now, no concrete schedule, but most likely, as long as these, you know, spoilers come out on Wednesday nights, we'll probably still do Thursday streams. I don't know if we'll always do, you know, 5 o'clock streams. We'll have to see, but Thursdays might be the stream days for sure. And then Manga Mondays for members are going back to Mondays, believe it or not. But happy to have you, happy to see you. And one thing that I will say, that I think might be one of the best theories we have in this tier list right now, that actually does rely a little bit on old narrative of Jujutsu Kaisen. However, I think with how relevant it has been brought up in the last 2 chapters, there's probably a pretty good reason to believe this might be the case, especially when you go through all of the different things that has been set up in regards to Tsurugi, Yuka, and the Gojo clan's sacred treasure of Yuta's ring that was a connection between Yuta and Rika. Because a theory that I definitely think has probably one of the most highest amounts of merit in this tier list is the Rika Orimoto revival theory, or the return of Rika at least being a major prevalent scene or impact in Modulo's runtime, whether that be something that happens early on or it's something that happens towards the very end. Because it's very clear Yuka, Tsurugi, they do not understand why this ring was so important to Yuta. They know it was a great heirloom and one of his most sacred possessions, but they do not understand the impact it had to his power, to who he was as a person. It's possible, long after Yuta himself has perished, Rika Orimoto's spirit lives on in this ring. And it's also possible that Rika Orimoto's, soul passed on and left rested with Yuta. Perhaps Rika's ring is basically dormant because Yuta died and Rika no longer has any ties to the physical realm. That is completely possible. But if we are to use some of the lore that Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo has set up for us, I think this theory can bring up a lot of interesting explanations for what is currently going on in the story that we've seen. Yuka getting the ring gifted to her by Yuta and having the Gojo clan, specifically Yuka and Tsurugi's mother of all people, take the ring back from Yuka and give it to Tsurugi for no other explanation other than he needs it more than you do. This inspires so much conflict, not even just in Yuka and Tsurugi, because we see they have grown up in spite of this ring mishap. When they were very young and their last grandparent was taken from them, the ring and one of the last things that they had to remember their grandparent by became basically an object of conflict for these 2 siblings. All for the sake of what? The Gojo clan having control, the Gojo clan deeming that because Tsurugi doesn't have enough cursed energy to be a full-fledged sorcerer, he needs the protection from the ring, which, if you really think about it, is a complete and utter disgrace to the clan that had Maki Zenin as the matriarch, the heavenly restriction user that was equal to Toji Fushiguro and was able to fight on par with Ryomen Sukuna in the culling game and just take down the entire Zenin clan single-handedly with their own bare raw hands. And you're gonna tell me whether that was their flesh and blood daughter or their daughter-in-law that married their son is gonna look at Tsurugi, their son that has the similar, potential for greatness in them of, still being able to be a strong sorcerer without levels of cursed energy, and they're gonna deem them as someone that needs extra protection, not someone that can live in the same footsteps as Maki, their grandmother? I don't know if I necessarily buy it. While I do think it's completely believable that the Gojo clan went back to traditionalism, and once Yuta and Maki, once their grasp on the clan was gone and they died, the clan went right back to, traditional aspects and believing that, what we say goes and what's best for the Gojo clan is better than what you guys individually want. It's also possible that who's to say that Yuka, because she doesn't suffer from the same struggles that Tsurugi does, she's a full-fledged sorcerer, even though we don't know too much about her technique. We've only seen her use the Tiger Jaws strike. What if, because Yuka's cursed energy is more akin to Yuta, because we see, just like Tsurugi wants to become like Maki, Yuka wants to become the next Yuta Okotsu, whether she has whether she has strong cursed energy, or whether she really has inherited some of Yuta Okotsu's stronghold powers or not, what if, because she's a full-fledged sorcerer, she would actually awaken the spirit of Rika, and if Yuta isn't the one to control Rika, the special grade curse, the supposed queen of curses, could potentially go on a rampage and destroy the Gojo clan, or more, or even worse, as we know it. We don't know what Rika's situation is. Rika could be completely uncontrollable, and even if, let's say, Rika's soul passed on with Yuta, perhaps the husk, the empty husk that was left behind for Yuta, no longer has that soul, but still exists as a special grade curse. And the ring is the only thing keeping it. Tsurugi, having no cursed energy, can't feed into Rika, whereas Yuka will immediately awaken Rika to a certain degree. Because again, while it is definitely possible that this is just the Gojo clan not believing Yuka should have the ring and wanting Tsurugi to have it because they don't trust in his strength levels, and we're going back to the old ways of the Jujutsu higher-ups from before, it's also possible that there's more to the story than we're letting on. Because again, Yuka and Tsurugi, while knowing a little bit about the stories of Sukuna and what the sorcerers are, were doing back in the heyday of mainline Jujutsu Kaisen, it's very apparent that the lore and the stories and history of what happened back then is a little shrouded in, again, historical revisionism, as does happen. Heroes are built up and exaggerated, and villains are also, demonized and exaggerated as well in their own ways. It's completely possible that, we don't know the curse of the ring, and there's more to the story than just that. And I'm willing to believe that theory because it makes so much more sense and also adds more weight to the Tsurugi and Yuka ring conflict, and also gives a little bit of grace to, Yuka and Tsurugi's parents. Because, I mean, we've only seen the mom right now. We don't know what's up with the dad. The dad could have been a fun-go-lucky dude, and maybe he died too. And maybe the mom was just mean, the evil stepmother kind of vibes, evil, daughter-in-law kind of vibes, but who knows? But right now, the Rika revival theory, I'll put as an A-tier theory. I really like it, and I think it's one of the best that we honestly have so far in regards to Modulo. And I'm gonna get into the last theory here, but one thing I definitely want to say is if any of you guys have your own theories or discussions that you want to open up, feel free to drop them down in the comments. Feel free to drop them in chat and we can talk about it, or come to the streams. Because obviously you have the theories like Sukuna or Gojo revival, but I don't want to touch the low-hanging fruit. I think honestly Sukuna, Tenga, and Kenjaku having ties to Alien is low-hanging fruit enough when it comes to very obvious discussions into what Modulo could say for the narrative and mainline world of Jujutsu Kaisen. But I definitely think while there's a lot of simple theories out there, I think these are just some of the best that I've seen, and I want to make that very clear that there's definitely theories that I probably haven't even heard about, that I haven't talked about in this video. So feel free to drop them because I'm curious about them, and if they're awesome enough, I'll definitely make a video on them, because Modulo opens the door to so many things. But like I said earlier, the very last theory, and it's just something that I definitely wanted to touch base on because it kind of goes hand in hand with Sukuna, Tengen, and Kenjaku and the origins of Jujutsu being answered by aliens. We have the older characters from mainline Jujutsu Kaisen being used in Modulo's narrative in some way, shape, or form, more than just a small cameo. With Yuji Itadori, Megumi Fushiguro, Nobara Kugasaki, or even more characters that we just haven't seen yet or be brought up yet, playing a major part in this world. Because something that a lot of people have not been able to get over since Modulo was announced, and we saw the original panel of Yuji getting brought up in Legend compared to Gojo, is where is Yuji now? That's even something that the curse user directly kind of, ponders and says, sure, you have sorcerers like Gojo and Yuji from the back in the heyday where they stopped the culling game, but where are those sorcerers now? Compared to the aliens, we are nothing now. So if that's the case, what did happen to Yuji? What did happen to Nobara and Megumi? I know there's the funny memes out there of Megumi dying to a grade 3 curse, or what happened to Hikari? Hikari died doing what he loved, gambling. there are so many answers and so many questions that people have, but is Gege really going to answer any of those things? And is the answer that we get going to satisfy our desires that we have to know what happens to a character when that screen goes black and when the ending comes? Because not for nothing, with any series that people love and enjoy, everyone wants to know what happened a year later, what happened 2 years later, what happens after credit rolls. And you know what? I've seen it time and time again. Sometimes I would have rather not known. Sometimes the sequel just ruins the main original series. And I think it's very apparent from what Gege Akutami has said in his author statement from the chapter 1 drop. Akutami is going to do his best not to, one, rely too heavily on the mainline series, but do his best to make Modulo not potentially besmirch or upset the mainline narrative or character work of the original series. So something tells me that characters like Yuji, Nobara, they probably won't be involved too heavily beyond small mentions and maybe a cameo here or there, but it is still fun to think about and theorize what an older Yuji would take place in this Modulo world against aliens, what Nobara, what Megami happened, or at least just at the very least knowing what happened to some of these characters. Because as of right now, obviously it's due to classified information, but it even seems almost like Gojo Satoru's death, you know, despite Gojo and Sukuna being broadcasted to the world with Mei's crows, unless she had a cut broadcast button with the crows, it's almost like Gojo's death isn't even commonly known about, right? Because the way that guy kind of phrases it, he's like, where are people like Gojo and Yuji now? What even happened to those guys? We don't know what the public knows, what the public doesn't know. According to chapter 2, information can be readily gotten and hacked into, but again, word of mouth kills most secrets, especially when most of those people that know the secrets are dead. Which is why, I mean, a lot of secrets about Jujutsu as a whole were prevalent in the mainline series. Our characters in that generation didn't know. We needed people like Sukuna to tell us, and they barely told us. So I think the same can be said for this generation. We may see the same thing, that pieces of lore and mysteries that we had in the main series are still pieces of mystery that we don't have answers to now. So I think this is the best way to finish a tier list like this for some of the best theories that I've seen. And this is a theory of, you know, previous characters playing a part in the mainline story. I think we might just not. Similar to the disaster curses, the merger, similar to even the Sukuna Tengen Kenjaku being aliens, you know, all of that stuff, you know, can potentially change your view of the existing main series. Even theories like Rika showing up again can change the timeline or the story, because now we know Rika did this later on after the end of Jujutsu Kaisen. However, I think Rika is the least harmless when it comes to theories like this. So in a sequel series like Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, you can really see how the theories and what fans are discussing completely take shape based off of what the desires of those fans are. Because unlike when we're theorizing about mainline Jujutsu Kaisen, when we're just following the story and seeing what goes, now in Modulo, we're taking what existed previously and trying to see what can be built upon. So, and I think that gives us the most fun thing to look at. Is Modulo going to be that sequel series that relies heavily and answers questions that we needed answers to and gives us satisfying payoffs, or potentially terrifying answers that we all hate and we think besmirch the mainline story? Or are they going to be more like Rika and just be small inclusions that add to the world, buff out, and, you know, you maybe, you know, fashion and expand upon some smaller details here or there, but ultimately Modulo ends up being its own standalone series? Let me know what you guys would honestly prefer, and again, tell me what some theories that you guys, you know, have that I might have missed, because genuinely while I think Modulo opens a lot of doors, I also think there's a potential that there's a lot of those doors might be closed and we might just not know it yet. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the rest of this series definitely gets into. So hit that like button, subscribe if you don't want to miss anything, because I'll be talking about Modulo all day, every day for as long as I can with this new weekly experience going on. And yeah, guys, I think with that, we're coming up on an hour and 50. So, you know, I'll definitely say we're probably entering wind down phase of the stream. Not much else to discuss, honestly. I think when it comes down to it, I'm definitely ready to see what Modulo brings to us. I just think I think, you know what, I felt it last night when I was seeing, you know, leaks drop, and I was seeing other YouTubers, you know, do their best to get the leaks out as soon as possible. You know, like it's interesting because it's like this series, you know, it's really interesting to me that like we are, you know, jumping to know what we can about chapter 2 of a sequel series, because this is chapter 2, literally, you know, like chapter 2 of a spin-off series that is still exploring and just trying to introduce us into these characters. So I think for right now, I think you even see with people that are just immediately jumping to talk shit about this series. This series is going to take a couple chapters to get its footing. It's very obvious. Any series is going to take a couple chapters to get its footing. It has to fully get us immersed in this world and these characters. Luckily, it's a spin-off, so we kind of already have a lot of the heavy lifting done for us, but we still need reasons to care about Yuka and Tsurugi beyond they're the grandchildren of Maki and Yuta, people that we did like, you know? Gege might have underestimated the scope of the manga and it goes on longer than 3 volumes. I wouldn't be surprised, because as someone that has been like, oh, I'll make this quick 15-minute video, no problem, and I end up with a 45-minute fucking project that takes an extra month. Yeah. As someone that is also a creative that works on projects, it wouldn't surprise me if the series went on a little bit, if not way longer, a little bit longer than he intends. I mean, Gege could have everything mapped out, strictly ready to go. That is also completely possible, you know? So we don't really know how much is already completely mapped out. With Gege not having to focus on drawing, you also have to remember that Gege can just be in the writer's seat the entire time. It's completely possible that Gege has already almost every single chapter ready to go, lined up, 1 to 30, 1 to 35, whatever, and just be like, yep. But no, I completely agree with you, Jesse. Yeah, mangaka are notorious for saying things will be ending sooner than they do. 110%. It is the dreaded curse of, again, just being a creator in general. You bite off more than you can chew very often. Very, very often. But as someone that is very willing to make exceptions for stories, especially a story like this, where I love Akutami, I love Gege, I think he can do I think he can do great writing work and great character work. So I'm gonna, you know, read this series to the end, not just obviously because I'm a creator and I'll be able to monetize the content. You know, obviously I would talk about it to the end, but not even including my job, like just like personally, like literally, like I would, you know, I would probably be into this series to the end just because I trust in Gege. I think he can cook. I know, again, you're gonna see nothing but haters jumping out of the woodworks to tell you that this is the worst shit they've ever seen, and Gege fell off after Gojo and all this stuff. You know, it's, I really don't, you know, I think we should treat this like we would treat any other manga and give it some time to cook. People were really expecting like chapter 1 to have like an all-out crazy fight scene, or chapter 2 was gonna have an all-out, like people were like halfway through the chapter 2, like people were like, all right, I'm done with this is boring. Dog, we don't even know who Tsurugi and Yuka are at this point. let me tell you, you know what really makes me, really want to take your religious messaging seriously? You coming into chat and saying you're fucking stupid for not believing it randomly without none of us are even talking about this, right? Like none of us are even talking about that. So you don't know what any of us believe whatsoever. I could be the most devout fucking Christian, God-fearing, American man, you know what I mean, that you don't even know. Just shut up. What up, Kyle Breeze? How you doing, man? This shit was amazing. Love seeing this beast of a guy looking like Sukuna's older brother. Literally, yeah. Like, I'm excited to see what these aliens bring to the table, because I really, really do think it just fucking brings it opens so much opportunity to have fun. I think the aliens are going to be more interesting than most people give credit for them to be. I think everyone's knee-jerk reaction is to see aliens and think Boruto, but I think everyone should stop that knee-jerk reaction and also remember that while a lot of us are too young to remember it, not all of us, but some of us are too young to remember it, there's also, people that read Dragon Ball, love Dragon Ball, and then, oh, what happened? Fucking all of a sudden, we've got Saiyans and we're traveling, the world to Namek and Dragon Ball Z. And what happened? Dragon Ball Z was one of the biggest fucking series, you could argue, bigger than the original Dragon Ball. So yeah, I think because Boruto put a bad taste in everyone's mouth, that's what everyone thinks of immediately. But I think we should remember that while the alien stuff has been done in ways that people didn't like, I, again, still will swear up and down and fight that there are good moments and things to highlight about Boruto that can be enjoyed. Would I rate the series any higher than like a 6, 5.5? Probably not. No. But do I still think that there are things to enjoy in Boruto? Yeah, I definitely think that there's some stuff in Boruto that you can get behind and enjoy. I still think some of it is a slog and some of it is annoying and some of it's a drag, and I'll never forgive what they did to adult Sasuke, my boy. They massacred my boy. But again, Dragon Ball did it great and Dragon Ball did it amazingly. So I trust in Akutami. Again, I said it in the last chapter stream, but Akutami, as someone from our generation, grew up alongside of us, whether you're, in Gen Z, a millennial, or Gen Alpha, Gege is, in his, 20s, probably at least, whether it's late 20s, early 30s, Akutami has seen all of the same media and been through the same media cycles of anime, manga that we have, right? He has seen the downfall of, some of Naruto's core fans after Boruto. He's also seen things like Dragon Ball Z blow up. So, like, I think Akutami knows, what he's doing, and I think he also has probably a better perspective of what to avoid than most other people. I think as long as Akutami has the creative control that he claims to have, I'm not mad at all. Akutami said one of the most important things to him was creative control and making sure the main line to Jujutsu Kaisen wasn't affected by the sequel, and he got apparently the conditions and terms that he wanted. And again, from someone that has read almost every Akutami interview that's out and fully read his data books and read his, most of his material. And while I've never met the guy, I can definitely say I somewhat understand his creative process. Then yeah, I fully trust Akutami. Even if he came out with an idol manga, I would have read it. That's just being honest. Even if Akutami dropped an idol manga, I would have read that shit. Coconut, so true. Creative control, quote unquote. Also, my characters write the story for me. You gotta love it. You gotta fucking love it. But yeah, I mean, like Kai was saying earlier, man, more Jujutsu Kaisen content is always better. I'm never gonna complain about more JJK. I'm riding this, roller coaster to the end, whether it's full of highs, lows, in-betweens, doesn't matter. You can count on me streaming every week, covering the series, which, by the way, I will shill really quickly. Go subscribe to the second channel if you have not already. I did post the chapter 2 spoiler summary earlier this morning around 6 a.m. So I'm gonna make a habit of you know, getting the spoiler summaries out as soon as I can, because we're still early on in the series, and leak streams were definitely more exciting during Gojo versus Sukuna and like Sukuna, you know, Shinjuku Showdown. I don't know if the beginning of Modulo will be super duper exciting for leaks to happen. Like, we're not going to be on the edge of our seat, like getting character introductions and building out the world, right? Like, maybe later on in the series things will be hype, but for right now, I don't think leak streams are the way to go. So you can definitely count on the chapter spoiler summaries coming out on the second channel, as well as, you know, the full chapter review when the official chapter drops and we have the translations or any extra content. I'll definitely be uploading some Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo videos on the main channel, but mostly I'll just be streaming here, and you can count on all of the, you know, Modulo extra content being put on the second channel. So definitely go subscribe to the second channel if you want some more Modulo content. Subscribe to this channel and hit the hype button, like button, hit the notification bell to make sure that YouTube sends you the, you know, the streams when they show up, because YouTube's been fucking weird lately with the algorithm. So yeah, you know, make sure if you don't want to miss anything. Also, if you're a member, join the Discord. Don't be scared to join the Discord. Hit the link on the channel page, the membership tab. Join the Discord, because that's the best way to get notified when new videos come out and when streams are going on. Excuse me. Oh, and it's a great way. Sorry for burping. I'm sorry. And it's also just a great way. It's the gamer stuff that's coming back. It's the great way to you know, stay just in tune with the community and just talk with like-minded people, y'all. But guys, if you haven't already, hit that like button. It really helps the stream way more than you know. If you have not already, just please hit the like button. Subscribe to the second channel. Check out the pinned message, gamersubs.gg/no-op. Sincerely, try it on me. Use code no-op and they will still send you free samples. So even if you don't want to spend on a tub of energy supplement that you've never tried before, you can still use my code to get free samples from Gamersubs if you are a new customer. So use my code anyway, get those free samples. I promise you will fucking do that shit. Yeah, play Expedition 33, drink Gamersubs, and read Shojin X. The three major tenets of life. But yeah, guys, I love you all. Happy to have the community back as always. And again, I'll probably post a video tomorrow for some module stuff. I think I'm gonna stream again tomorrow for Demon Slayer's movie. As Tiberius said, he's going to see the Infinity Castle movie soon. I don't know if I will be I don't know if I'll be seeing Infinity Castle in theaters right away, but I've definitely got Infinity Castle content planned. I have a larger video being edited that will be out on this channel hopefully the next couple of days. I'm just waiting for that to get back to me. And I have a stream tomorrow of some fun manga MCs and how far they would get through the upper moons to celebrate. So yeah, telling you, look out for that stream tomorrow. If you're seeing the movie, I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to everyone telling me how it is tomorrow. And yes, Coconut, read Shojin X. It is the best ongoing manga right now, and it also is the best new gen manga villain, Batista. Fucking glorious Batista. The Church of Batista, I swear to God, get the jump on it now. But yeah, guys, subscribe to the second channel if you haven't already. Link is in chat. That's where all Modulo reviews, spoiler summaries, and other stuff will be posted, as well as other weekly series like Don to Don, Chainsaw Man, Sakamoto Days, and Gachiakuta. Kagurabachi as well. And the next Shojin X chapter will be on No More Operator. I wanted to do the most recent Shojin X chapter that came out, but with the season 3 trailer, Modulo dropping, it was almost impossible to fit in, and now it's just so late. I'll just wait for the next chapter. But so I will be covering Shojin X as well, because I generally think that's one of the best series. But I've been yapping for too long. Guys, I love every single one of you. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Go to my link in the thing. Go support Gamersubs. Every single free sample or purchase goes to support the channel, and it really helps. And yeah, guys, I will see you tomorrow for the stream. Peace.